today's video, I want to show the importance of lighting in macro photography and the difference a flash can make in your images. I headed out on a thoroughly miserable winter day. There was little light anywhere, with a flat grey sky, drizzling rain, and an overall feeling that I should have stayed at home with a cup of tea. But being the trooper I am, I persevered and stumbled on these brightly coloured leaves. The blend of colours really caught my eye, with the different yellows, oranges and reds really standing out against the greens and the darker background. I took my shot at f5.6 ISO 500 with a 100th of a second shutter speed, and then did some basic colour adjustments in Lightroom. These tiny leaves with these crystal-like water droplets also looked nice, and I thought deserved a quick snap, as did this fern, which stood out nicely against the dark background. Further along my walk, I found this interesting feather, covered in droplets and hanging onto a small leaf. Shot using just the natural light, it's okay, with a sort of dreamy appearance because of that shallow depth of field at f2.8. Working with the flash though, I turned the scene into this much more dramatic image. I used a faster shutter speed to reduce the ambient light in the scene and used an aperture of f8, positioning my flash off to the left of the frame. It makes a huge difference, completely transforming the image into something that looks like it was taken in studio. Of course, you might prefer the first version, and that's fine, but it goes to show just how much difference using your own lighting can make in macro photography. I did much the same with this little flower. I tried the image using just the natural light, and it's a perfectly fine shot, if a little boring and predictable. But again, bringing in my own light allowed me to create a very different mood here by reducing that ambient light with a faster shutter speed. But what about splitting the difference? Here I've used a slower shutter speed to capture more ambient light, but I've still brought just a pop of that light in to give that extra little bit of emphasis on the flower itself. I try and capture a variety of settings combinations so I can choose my favourites later. I much prefer the feather shot with flash, as it isolates the subject so well, much like I did with this shot from a previous video where I used an off-camera light from above to emphasise the web-like texture of these seeds and have them stand out from their background. However, this other shot from today's shoot has a light and airy style, taken with just the ambient light, and I don't think it needs any additional lighting. For my final image, I found this little flower next to these droplets on a spider web. Using the flash here turns those droplets into beautiful little crystals, so I set my camera to f8, ISO 100 and 1/25th of a second and held my flash to the left of the frame. I took one image focusing on the flower and one on the droplets to focus stack later. Combining them in post was simple. I made some basic tweaks to the lighting and the colour in Lightroom before opening them as layers in Photoshop. Then it's an easy case of masking in the focused areas of each layer and giving a final few tweaks in Camera Raw. I tried to keep my macro images looking natural and realistic, but I like to use the hue, saturation and luminance tool to adjust the colours to emphasise the tones, in particular shifting the greens from being quite a sickly yellowy green into a deep emerald colour. I also like to use the brush tool to paint in light and contrast into certain areas, and actually I find that painting in some clarity just on those water droplets can really help bring them out from their background. As with the flash, editing your images is entirely down to taste, and what might suit you won't suit someone else, so don't worry about trying to emulate someone else's style or be concerned if your shots don't look like another photographer's. But hopefully you've enjoyed seeing this quick demonstration of how easy it is to use lighting to give your macro images a very, very different look. If you have enjoyed it, please hit that like button, consider subscribing if you don't already, and I will see you next time.